My name is Kathy Weigel. We are in West Bloomington, Minnesota, and I grew up on a farm in Sealant, North Dakota.
So were you born on the farm?
No, I was not. I was born in a hospital in Eureka, South Dakota.
But then from a very young age you were living on the farm with your family.
Correct.
Okay, tell me about that farm life. What do you remember your first memories of what chores you had to do and what type of activities you had to do on the farm?
Well, we had to feed the chickens and the calves and pigs and help milk cows when we got older.
Did you have to pick
Carry.
up rocks? Zealand has more rocks than any place in the world.
Oh, yeah, in the spring we spend at least 2 weeks out in the field picking rocks. And the big ones, our dad hired someone with a caterpillar to remove them.
Now, when we were talking to your sister, she remembered growing up on the farm. I know you're a little bit younger, but she remembers growing up on the farm that you didn't have running water, that you didn't have electricity. Was that the same for you?
Right, and we had to use the outhouse, and we had the Sears Roebuck Cadillac instead of toilet paper. And we carried lots of water into the house, and we had a bathtub upstairs but we carried water up, but then it would run out. It would run out. We didn't have to carry it
So
out.
did you have to heat it in the house then?
Yep, we heated it in the house, and the same way with washing clothes, we carried the water in downstairs, and our mother had a big boiler, and we heated it and then put it into the washing machine, and a wringer washing machine. And
Did you
the,
ever work with the machinery on the farm, or did you mostly do other things?
no, I helped my dad. I drove the tractor, and I know I helped him when I was in, I think it was 8th grade or 9th grade. In the fall, I helped him when they made silage, driving the tractor and with the load of silage into what we call the trench, and help pack it down. And
Did you ever have to do anything with horses?
yep, we did. With the horses, we hauled hay. Um, Also, twice a year we would go around and with the horses and a wagon and check for the fence and fix the fence. If there was any wires loose, tighten them and put in new poles.
So
And
what type of farm was it? Did it have a lot of different things, activities that you were doing?
it's just a farm.
But I mean, it wasn't a dairy farm or
Well, we had cows and we had pigs and chickens, and we had what we raised oats and wheat and corn, and we had alfalfa to make hay, and we cut hay. Well, we called it lake hay. It was by the lake, and so we'd cut that hay for to feed the cows in the winter.
how about school? Where did you go to school?
From grades 1 through 7, I was a one-room school house out on the farm, and then from 8th through high school, I went to the school in Sealand. The bus would come and pick me up, and then it had a route. If you're the first one on in the morning, you'd be the last one off at night. So then that would be way too late for me to get home. So then my parents would go over to where our mailbox was, and I would get off the bus versus riding it all the way around.
So how come you got to go to high school and your sister didn't?
I suppose because there was the bus.
So why don't you tell me what you remember about the one-room schoolhouse?
Well, I know it was 2 rooms. There was like a basement that had a big furnace underneath where we would play indoors in the winter, and then upstairs was the classroom. And it had a register, and then when it was cold, we all sat around the register to stay warm. And we had to bring our lunch and our water, and there was the outdoor toilet, of course.
What do you remember about your teacher? Do you remember anything about your teacher?
Not really. I must have blanked it all out.
Do you think you had a bunch of different teachers?
Yeah, I think every year there were different ones because they had all 8th grades. I don't know, I guess I haven't looked at my report cards to see.
So what did you like doing on the farm? What were your favorite things to do on the farm?
I learned how to cook, but I think I like being outdoors more. I know I helped make hay, and well, we butchered a lot of chickens.
So you're pretty self-sufficient, I would imagine.
Right, worked in the garden. We had a garden.
Did you ever get to go to town much?
Not very often. We would go out, we went in the 4th of July, and we'd get a little money to spend. And I know our mother would bring in the food, that we would eat. But I don't remember a lot.
How about friends? Did you have friends in the neighborhood and or from other farms?
Not really, because I think we were all busy working, so we didn't. We would have to walk, and so I think during the school year we would play with the kids, our neighbors, but other than that we didn't.
Sounds like even when you got back home from school, that you had a lot of things that had to do farm related, didn't you?
Right, we had to do the chores. I don't remember doing homework, but I'm sure I must have had homework. But I know you had to come home and milk the cows and, you know.
When did you decide, and how did you decide that you wanted to leave the farm and go to the city or go to the town?
Well, our dad committed suicide in 1964, and so our mother sold the farm because she couldn't do all the work by herself, plus it would have needed a lot of money to upgrade. So she moved to Aberdeen, South Dakota, because she had 3 sisters that lived there, so I'm sure that's why she moved there. So then we moved in 1964 to Aberdeen, and I went to Northern State College for a semester, and then I decided that wasn't for me. So I worked in a nursing home for a while, and then I worked in the IRS, was located in Aberdeen, but then they closed the office, so I would have had to go either to Kansas City or Washington, D.C. I decided I didn't want to do that. So then I was kind of in between jobs when Cargill came out to interview. They ran an ad in the paper, and then they came and interviewed. We took the test on the bus, and then they hired me right away, and I came down here. And that was scary for me, too, because I came down on the bus, the Greyhound bus, and I got off on downtown Hennepin, and I stayed in the YWCA. And it was storming and cold, and so then on Sunday I walked around to see if I could find the Cargill building so I could go to work on Monday morning. So I did that. And
was Cargill downtown too?
They were downtown on 7th and Marquette. So then, and we had 2 uncles that lived down here. And so one uncle lived in Fridley, and so then he helped me find an apartment I was in Fridley.
That's still, I mean, that's pretty bold for a single lady to come to with not much of a city background.
No.
To come to Minneapolis.
No.
So did you want to just make a change?
Your shoes are your Velcro is like
Oh, okay.
together.
Was that? Did you just want to make a change? What motivated you? You remember?
I needed a job. I know our mother couldn't really afford to take care of us. She had our younger brothers, and she had no high school or anything, and so I decided I needed a job, and so Cargill, it just happened, and I decided to come down here.
So did you then talk to your sister about taking a job in Cargill?
She took the interview, or did the interview the same day I did, but she was working at the time, and they didn't know for sure what kind of job they would have for her, so they came after they were down here. I think 2 weeks later they called and said she could come down here, and they had a job for her.
Now, that must have been something. At least you had someone you knew to share an apartment with.
Yeah.
Now, what did you do at Cargill?
Well, I started out in accounting, and what the department I worked for, we worked with the country elevators, or what they called country elevators. They were in the smaller cities, and so I did book work for them. And then in the late 70s, I went into IT because they were putting computers in all the country elevators, and so I went around and trained the bookkeepers how to use the computers. And
That must have been exciting.
I was, but I got tired of it too. Eating all the greasy spoon stuff, you know, not home cooking. It's exciting when you start, but then after a while, it gets tiring.
Now, how long did you work for Cargill?
I was almost 35 years, and then I got laid off, or early retirement, I guess, in 2001. So then they were cutting back on IT people. So then I did, after that, some temporary jobs, and then I got a job with a small company. They did energy design and consulting, and I did accounts payable for them till I retired.
And how long ago was that?
In 2011.
Okay,
So-
I didn't do the math.
Yeah.
So what do you remember? What do you remember about the farm, though? You mentioned equipment. What else do you remember about the farm that you liked?
I think just being outside and in the open air, and I think I liked the cattle and the animals.
So how do you think women on the farm, that's the topic of our documentary, how do you think things might have changed for women on the farm from when you were a young lady and then left? How do you think it is today?
I would think maybe with more the equipment that they have, the bigger tractors, that maybe the women spent more time with their housework and children versus being out on the farm. Because our mother would help with making hay and planting. And
Are you writing articles as well as your sister?
no, it's not my thing, I guess.
You might help her remember some stuff. Maybe not. I don't know.
Oh.
But I find that it's often good to have that someone else that might remember something that's the spark that you need.
Well, I do that because she works with someone that's a English major, kind of like I suppose like a tutor or whatever, that is better in English, and so we meet like once a week if it works out, and so I kind of, put in my 2 cents if I remember something,
Yeah, sometimes you need that just that idea, and then all of a sudden the memories come back. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Was your memory of farm a happy one or a not happy one? What do you think?
I don't think it was real happy. I think we were more stoic, and you didn't show a lot of affection, and I don't remember us doing a lot of laughing. I think it was all basically work, work, work.
Your sister said your dad was pretty stern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I maybe had a little closer relationship with our dad than she did, because I was maybe more tomboyish. I went out and helped more with the farm, the outdoor work.